Morning cellists. Well, here we are in week 2, and this week we'll be looking at the Sarabande from the first suite. But let's begin without our bows and have a cello hug. As I reminded you last week, hands on your arms to feel your body warmth. Wiggle those toes in your shoes and really become aware of your feet and the support that the floor gives them. Then rock on your sitting bones. Feel the balance, feel the support of the chair. Now become aware of your arms and really allow them to be as weighty and relaxed as you like. The cello will support you. Now we move to your breath, and I remind you, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Here we go. Nice deep breath. And again. And if you really are truly taking that deep breath, the cello should move with your rib cage, even if just a little. That's a good sign. We're now going to add on to that a little reminder about opening our arms to greet the world, if you like. On and out breath. Here we go. In, out. And here we are in a nice repose position with the arms slightly curved, a bit like ballet arms, as it were, in second position. For those of you who might have ballet, don't look at my thumbs though. From this position, let's have a look. You've got a nice symmetry of the upper arms, in fact both arms. But if I were just to twist my right arm as if I were holding a bow and move my left into first position, you can see we're already in good cello posture with a super symmetry and balance in the upper arms. Right, now let's pick up our bows and look at what technical warm-ups we're going to add in this week. All of the things I gave you last week are still relevant, so do look at any of those items again. I'm going to look at a bow pattern today, a string crossing bow pattern, which will help prepare us for the difficulties of the chords in the Sarabande. It's very simple. So we're looking at whole bows, and I'm slurring on 2 strings. Here we go. You can do this on repeat. The things to look out for is moving to the flat hair as you come to the point, and as you like you can come to a slight tilt on the edge of the hair as you approach the heel, which is where you would begin. On a slight tilt would be quite normal. We will also consider starting on the flat, but in this instance I think on the edge. We'd then take the upper 2 strings. Now finally, the tricky version, we're going to go from the G to the A. Now this last example would be the most useful for looking at my elbow here. So as I go across, the elbow slightly preempts the move, and similarly on the way down, the elbow should slightly preempt the move. Let me show you that again. And in fact, I then want to add in a 2-string version. Middle 2, top 2. And for this version you will need to be more on the flat hair at the heel as well as the point. This whole exercise can also be experimented with starting on an up. And that would prepare us ready for string crossings. As well as the movement to the flat bow hair, which will become really, really important, that kind of control in the Sarabande, which we'll come to shortly. Okay, so there's your daily bow exercise. Now this week I'm going to look at Feuillard's 5th study alongside the Sarabande. Like the sarabande, it's in 3-time. Unlike the sarabande, the stress is in a different place. So a normal 3-time, we have, of course, the first beat is the strongest. In the sarabande, when we come to work on that, however, the characteristic of the sarabande is that the strong beat is on the second beat. So this study that I'm looking at, we could also, as well as playing it as expected with a strong first beat, we could try it with a strong second beat. That was the bow pattern. Now with the fingers. Which would stand us in good stead for the sarabande. Where that second chord is the one that's the important one, and the whole of that sarabande is based on those strengths on second beats. Now looking again at the Feuillard, we're just taking one line, and this is about using the whole bow. Now when it's a crotchet, obviously the bow will need to move a bit faster. And for 2 beats slurred, we're sharing, so it'll be a bit slower on the bow speed. Fast, slow. Now you'll notice in the middle of that, just it changed the bow pattern. So the first 4 bars are long and fast for 1 beat, and then slower for 2. Then we get to the second half of the line, and we've got the other way round. We're doing 2 crotchets in 1 bow stroke and a single crotchet at the upbeat. Now we have to be careful there, because we don't want it to be an ugly fast bow. I'll show you what I mean. We don't want that. So you'll have to be very light and fast for this 3rd beat to be where it should be, which is actually less strong, like this. Quite different to the first half of this line, where it's absolutely fine to be strong on the first beat. Is fine as this study is written, although as I mentioned earlier, we might try it also with a strong second beat to prepare us for sarabande. In the other aspect where we slur to the 2 beats here, we're looking at a 5th with a barred finger. Now in terms of getting into it, previously we've looked at preempting that and just crossing over for the bar a bit early, like this. Now we could do that, but I think in this instance we want the point of the finger so that we have a clarity of sound, and since we have then a change of bow, we can very quickly move to the bar. I'll show you. There it is. Enjoy that, working on that this week. Now let's move to the beginning of the sarabande, which I've given you a couple of little insights into earlier on. These first 2 chords, it would be useful just to try them out by themselves without the low G to start with. So first finger on the A string with an open D. Then first finger on the D string with a second on the A string. So there are 6 those. They're a really lovely interval on the cello, because they tolerate some indiscretion of where the finger is and they still sound very well together. So taking it now, the same 2 6ths, but we would do an up and down bow to get our muscle memory into how they fit together. So that's one preparatory element that you could try. Another one which I think would be very useful is actually a set of 6 like this. Now what I'm doing there is I've got a first finger on the A string with an open D, first finger on the D, open G. This is really important. We're going to be looking at this last part of the bow near the heel, at the end here, and then rocking over, where you're maintaining contact, bow contact as you cross the strings, and you're trying to maintain sound. Now what this actually is the tiny fragment of time between the two chords, so that when you have this, we've just looked at the end of the first chord and the beginning of the second, because we need to have a very swift movement of the left hand before moving into the second chord. And of course the second finger could be delayed in being put down by a fraction of a second. So this should help you with the smoothness of transitioning from one chord to the next. As I mentioned earlier, the second beat is the strong one in the sarabande, and that's one of the reasons why it's traditionally played up bow for the first chord and down to the second. Watch out for your timing. It's very easy to play the second chord too short. You might like to think of a quaver beat. Ta, 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 ta. So we'd have you can play just the top line. To get your mind into how slow and long that second chord is. To help you make the bow last, once you've got over to the top two strings, go to flat air, slow the speed down, and even you can get really, really close to the very point, and you should be able to make the time. Let's just try it. And you can see I'm at the very point there, moving across on flat bow hair. The other thing you might have observed is that I let go of the E earlier than the C. That's absolutely fine. So we let go of it and draw the ear's attention to the melodic line at the very, very top before falling to that B by itself. That is a common interpretation of this bar. Moving to the next bar, fairly straightforward here. At this point, leave your second finger on the C, dip down for the lower two notes of the chord following, and trill from this C, from the upper note. Again, you can let go of the chord underneath, it's ringing because it's open strings. And the following two quavers are really to be tapered away. They belong to the trill beat. It's part of the G major chord. That's where they belong. They don't belong to the subsequent bar. This structure is little tiny 2-bar phrases followed by a 4-bar phrase. And if you imagine a little comma at the end of the second bar there, this will work very well for our phrasing. I'll show you the 2 bars then. Take a breath and at this point notice I'm staying in the upper part of the bow for that last quaver into this bar. Leave your fourth finger where it is, place the first finger on a bar, and we will again trill from the upper note. And again, these last 2 quavers, taper them away, they belong to the D major chord. So the second phrase, or the second half of this line, and there's your next breath or comma before we'll proceed with the next phrase tomorrow. Enjoy your explorations.